Oh, that's wrong. Wrong location.
Am I doing it right? Good evening. Welcome to Roundtable. Hi, welcome to Roundtable here at NEIT, New England Tech. New venue for us, but we're happy to be here. I'd like to have Danielle come down and do the R opening. Okay, so we're gonna start with the prayer. We pray that February will be our month filled with good news, many blessings, new opportunities, healing, and lots of love. Amen. Wow. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Scout sign. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. 2. How are we doing tonight? Happy February. I'd like to introduce the Roundtable staff. We have Rob Coates, Council Commissioner. Miss Linda Norton, Council Roundtable. Jeremy Labonte. Michael Marseglia. Robert Hart. Bob Bickgood behind the keys. Danielle Stromberg. And me, Lisa Colza-Kenyon. All right. We have now our February Roundtable video. Nope. Which one? This one?
Good evening, and thank you for attending Roundtable. This past Saturday marks Scouting America's anniversary, which typically initiates Arrow of Light crossovers. We have 2 valuable resources on transitioning from Arrow Light to Scouts BSA and transferring Scouts from the pack to the troop. For additional assistance, please contact your district executive. Cub Scout Iditarod is an exciting outdoor winter event and a fantastic opportunity for Cubs to test their scouting skills, enjoy the great outdoors, and have lots of fun. It's Pinewood Derby season. Join us at Champ Camp at the Scout Shop to prepare your Pinewood Derby car for racing. Did you know the top 5 racers from your pack's Pinewood Derby are eligible to compete at a regional race? These are not district specific, so you can attend any that fit your schedule. The top racers from each regional race will be invited to the championship race in April, sponsored by Tosca. National Jamboree registration is now open. This is more than just a camp. It's an adventure of a lifetime. Spring break and summer day camp registration is now open. Spots are filling up fast, so don't miss out. Spring break programs are available for both Cub Scouts and Scouts BSA. It's our ongoing commitment to provide scouting opportunities to all youth, regardless of financial status. If you or someone you know needs assistance, please submit your application soon. Applications close on May 15th.
Get ready for the event of the year. Adventure at the Fort is back October 10th through 12th at Fort Adams in Newport, Rhode Island, and it's open to all Scouts. Scouts BSA will camp overnight inside a historic fort, while Cubs friends and family join the fun on Saturday. Experience an action-packed weekend featuring Scout skills, tunnel tours, archery, fishing, climbing, tall ships, and so much more. There's no way you'll fit it all in. Plus, enjoy activities from program partners, food trucks, and an amazing Saturday night stage show with special guest appearances.
Registration for troops to overnight camp is now open. This is a deposit-only registration with the final count of Scouts required at a later date. Additionally, Saturday day passes are now available to purchase. Awesome training for awesome leaders. Discover how to deliver the best program for your Scouts. Whether you're new to your scouting role, looking to get more involved as a leader, or haven't yet participated in an in-person leader development program, Leaderpalooza is for you. Sign up today. We deeply appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to stay informed and learn how to better support your unit and continue to help scouting thrive. Your dedication truly makes a difference. We look forward to seeing you at next month's Roundtable.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We're now. Okay, so we're this month's safety moment is on winter activity safety. Ooh. So, but okay, so as it says, there's much magic to winter camping, but it's also a challenge, as you know, up in New England it does get a little colder than some other parts of the country during winter. So we need to keep an eye out for potentially extreme weather conditions, cold temperatures, and the unique hazards associated with outdoor camping. So before we go on to the next one, for winter safety activity, we want to focus on the cold method. This is part of the interactive portion of our discussion. Does anyone know what what COLD stands for the cold method? We'll do it in out of order. Come on, anyone know C? Let me check. No. All right, come on, C. Let's take a guess. Come on, please. This can be a very long safety minute.
I don't have a Wi-Fi access, so I can't Google it.
Ah. All right. So tell you what, we'll move on to the activity. It has to do something with the clothing you're wearing, but it's not. All right, we're getting there. All right. So C. C is for clean clothing. It is. It is a law. All right. So clean. So it's clean. It's the reason is you're going to lose your insulation effectiveness as well. You want to keep it clean. Dirt, grime will get it in. Then also sweat. As we know, sweat's also going to draw additional heat from the body. Overheating at the same time. You don't want to wear a million layers and a million parkas, right? Overheating is just going to be just as dangerous. We want to make sure we stay hydrated, and one way to stay hydrated is, of course, water or sports drinks. However, sports drinks does not include energy drinks. That's another safety moment on energy drinks. So sports drinks are okay. The L is loose layers. All right, so keep the blood flowing. Make sure again that we have layers. As I mentioned before, we don't want to cut off circulation, and as they also call out the bright colored clothing. So hopefully we're not in a situation where we need to try to find a lost scout, but it is always an option. And hats are key during the winter because, as you know, a good portion of your heat is escaping through your head. And finally, D for dry. So yes, we get sweaty during the day. However, let's try to keep, when possible, change into that dry dry clothing. If if it is going to be touching the skin, have it be moisture, wick away moisture. And it always, and it also calls out, always brush off snow your clothes before you enter a heated area. That's so. Please don't go in covered in snow. Let it melt all over you. Then you have dirty, wet clothing, and you're going to get colder even more so. But that is cold. I went on. I briefly mentioned staying hydrated. At the same time, you also want to make sure that you're eating the right food during that time. Let's see. Reading right off there. So right type of food when playing. It's also important. And we want to make sure that we're building the fire within. That's because you're starting your own little fire using sugars. They act like a fire starter, and you want those carbs and proteins going. As we mentioned, hydration is also important. Please make sure you stay hydrated. You can get dehydrated just as easily in cold weather, doing heavy activities and many activities as you can in warm weather. And please do not avoid energy drinks. That is the same as the previous one. Guides. So additional sources are the Guide to Safe Scouting. Everyone knows the Book of No, KNOW, as well as the Field Book. So because I am so cool, I looked up the Guide to Safe Scouting just to look up some additional notes on winter activity camping. One thing to note is planning. So when you go on a winter activity, when you're doing a winter activity with a troop, everyone remembers to use the SAFE plan, right? Everyone seen the SAFE plan? Yes, please. Everyone's seen the plan. Okay. Some things to keep in mind is in winter, if you're doing snowshoes, don't plan to do more than 5 miles a day, or 10 to 12 miles if you're cross country skiing. Burning. So some people think that I'm cold, I'm gonna start a fire in the tent. No, Never use flames in tents, teepees, or snow shelters. This includes burning any solid liquid, gel, or gas fuel, using features of tents or teepees that support stoves or fires, and of use of chemical fueled equipment and catalytic heaters. So per the guide to safe scouting, it says you should not plan more than 5 miles a day if you're snowshoeing or 10 to 12 miles skiing. That is what the guide to safe scouting says. Nope. It was reviewed January 2024.
So it's just an arbitrary limit that someone decided on without explanation.
Mike, I'm not going to get an
I
argument.
know I'm being a
It's,
little facetious. I get it.
come on.
But like 5 miles doesn't get you very far.
Yeah, but again, as a troop, it might not be the sense. If you say, hey, let's go off, that's why they're throwing out. What wasn't fun?
If you snowshoe, is it 5 miles in a day?
Yes.
If you snowshoe? Yes. You have? Yes. I've taken the troop snowshoeing 5 miles, especially in powder, will kill the kid.
Of course it was.
I guess it depends on where you're going. We are talking about scouts.
So part of it is also planning for the level. So part of this is also planning for the level of ability for the youth that are attending, right? So that's part of your safe plan as well. You want to make sure they also call that out. Make sure you have the right equipment and the right level and skills needed for the youth to complete that activity. Also, let's see, protective equipment going on, continuing with equipment. One thing to note is obviously you can have activities like tubing and skating and other winter activities. One thing to note is the use of helmets is required for downhill skiing and snowboarding. All right. So it's not required for tubing, but they recommend it for many activities, but it is required for downhill skiing and snowboarding. So, all right, so now that I've riled up enough people about the Buccino and Winter Harvest Station, are there any additional questions about winter? Is just out of curiosity, has anyone done? Is any troop already scheduled to do additional winter camping in tents? Do some snow camping? No. Oh. So it's healthy, high sugar, high fat. So you have your granolas and your nuts at that point as well, right? Yep. Yes. Yes. If you guys didn't hear, butter and hot cocoa is always a nice treat for the scouts at the end of the night. Yep. Yes.
You mean, instead of a marshmallow, you take
A little bit of butter and put it in. It's actually pretty good.
Not the whole stick.
Yes, not the whole stick. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And we'll continue on now to the next topic.
Thank you, Jeremy. Rob, are you ready? Excellent. So Rob Coates is up to present Scout Book. And if anyone has questions, just raise your hand. I have a microphone to come around, so the people at home. Oh, well. You can ask all the questions you like. April break. And Ethan's shaking his head right behind you. Maybe he can give us more information on that.
I believe.
Trying to hang myself.
Gotcha. I believe it is starting on Monday, April 14th, running to the 18th.
Is this thing working?
Yep. Yep.
Oh boy.
I believe they may have
It's a good
built it
pain in the butt.
into the typical day camp registration. So
Okay.
if you click onto if you scroll down, there's
Thanks,
a
Mike.
page where there are options to register for certain weeks, and it should say April break day camp right there.
Thank you.
Okay. So, good evening, everybody. I hope you all know me. My name is Rob Coates. And hi. You'd be surprised, or maybe not. We received many requests for an overview of Scout Book. So that's what tonight's topic is. I do have a PowerPoint, but to actually go through an internet-based application and just say, okay, page 2, page 3. So I had one in case this failed, but I'd much rather just go through this live with everybody, okay? And show you the different things, My.Scouting, Scout Book, and Scout Book Plus, okay? How many people in the room use Scout Book? Well, thank you for requesting an overview of Scout Book tonight. No, I just kidding. How many people use Scout Book Plus? How many people are just in the Scout Book world still? Okay. So I will just use this. So one of the things to think about when you go to My.Scouting, okay, if you were to go to My.Scouting and go to your troop, your login, right, and then you get organizational management, that kind of stuff. I have to back out a page, I believe. Sure. It's much more effective. Right. In the end, right, when you log in, you can come down to organizational manager. And I say that because in here, you'll see your roster. You could do some other things depending on your position with the unit. But when someone submits an application, right, this right here should be what you use primarily to manage your roster. Okay. If you try to go ahead and you can add a scouter in in Scout Book, if you get it exactly the same, the two should correlate. But if you don't, it'll end up creating an additional person for you in your roster. And I'll show you how to add a person, okay? But I just wanted to show everybody this. I would start here when it comes to understanding what your unit roster is. Now, all of these are tied to this database called ScoutNet, all right? Back in the day, there used to be all kinds of independent databases out there. So Bob would go in and he'd enter some stuff, and then the database that he was tied to was different than the one that National uses, and oh my gosh, right? Well, one of the benefits of Scout Book when it came along and My.Scouting is it's actually pulling the data from ScoutNet. So what Council and National is using would be the same data that you see here. Okay, let's get into Scout Book. So Scout Book, way back in the day, I'd like to say I'm not old, but it's been a bit, right? We had these little DOS-based, almost seemed like DOS-based applications like Unit Visitation Tracking System was how commissioners used to track their contacts with units, right? And then we got commissioner tools. There used to be advancement that we would just go to the scout shop and we'd turn our papers in and we'd say, okay, these scouts did X, Y, Z, right? And then when you submitted your Eagle Scout application, if there was a date that was wrong, and I actually have had scouts get kicked like 10, 15 years ago because the merit badge date was a little off, right? And we pulled the blue card out, got it corrected, and the kid was okay. But that said, now with internet-based advancement, which is really where Scout Book took us, when we enter the data into Scout Book, and now I'll come on over, when we enter the data into Scout Book, it actually started to work well, right? So what is Scout Book? Like I say, it was initially an advancement tracking tool. Now it also has messaging, forums, you can track service hours, hiking miles, nights camping, and other calendar features, right? The good thing about Scout Book is it's free, right? You get it for free. I know a lot of units, including the one that I'm associated with, we use some other services because Scout Book, frankly, wasn't all it was or is today. And we've just been using this other application, but we've been looking at Scout Book and what Scout Book Plus is becoming because it is getting more and more robust. Now, I'm going to bounce back and forth, not in an effort to confuse you, but Scout Book Plus is coming out. The scouting is taking on updating a whole bunch of stuff at the same time for whatever reason, right? Commissioner tools, a bunch of stuff in My.Scouting and Scout Book Plus. So the features are being phased into Scout Book Plus, but they're not all there yet, right? I guess what I would encourage you to do is to go to Scout Book Plus, and if you don't see a tool that you would be looking for in there, go back to Scout Book, and oh, by the way, it's easy to do. If you just go down here to the bottom left, you'll see Scout Book. You click on that, and it'll take the unit that you have called up, and it'll pop it up in Scout Book, okay? So when you first come into Scout Book Plus, and you select roster up at the top, there, in fact, is your roster, okay? These are all of the different people. I could tell you that in here somewhere, you can also see where the dens are. Patrol. Help me. Patrol. There we go. Sorry about that. I had a button I didn't click. So now you can see here what's happened is it sorted the roster by patrol. So all of the scouts above this are all now in the Scoutmaster today is using the patrol leader's first name as the patrol name right now. But Patrol 3, Kai is the patrol leader, and the scouts above him are the ones that are in his current patrol. Okay? That's how that's working. Oh, backwards. So you could sit there, you could go and you could look at your roster, you could sort it by patrol. If you wanted to add a patrol, right? And this has gotten a little easier to use than it was years ago. If you wanted to add a patrol, you could go up to the top, you could click on add a patrol, enter the patrol name in, right? And then what you can do, you used to have to create the patrols, go back out, go to the scout, assign them to the thing. Now what you can do though is you could take all of the scouts in the troop are listed here. In the same, a lot of this cross-checks right over to the Cub Pack stuff as well, right? You could take all of these names here, choose the one you want, hit the plus sign, and they'll be pulled out of the patrol they were in if they were in a patrol and reassigned to this new patrol. So managing patrols has become pretty easy that way. Okay. So why would you add an adult to a patrol? Some troops, now if you were a Cub Pack, it becomes more obvious, right? Because you could have den leaders or other adults that are assigned particularly to a den, okay? If your troop is blessed enough to have enough assistant scoutmasters, there's often, there can be the routine where the scoutmaster will assign an assistant scoutmaster to work directly with that patrol. And now the benefit of that is that you don't see messaging in this yet, but when you're doing event-based stuff, you can assign those events to a particular group, namely a particular patrol, and anything that happens around that one patrol, the adults are also getting informed of the different stuff, okay? So it affects communications and other like things, show up on their calendar for specific groups, okay? So yes, some troops actually do assign particular scoutmasters, or excuse me, assistant scoutmasters to patrols, and that's why you would do that, okay? If you go down, there is a place in here to add a member. I believe it is all the way at the end. Oh. Well, there's a place to transfer a member. So remember, all of the functions haven't been cross-decked over, and I'll show you where it is in Scout Book. But you could transfer a member. Now, what it doesn't say here, but it says in Scout Book is that it's an in-council person. So, you know, I've got a scout who's moving up to Northern Rhode Island, so he wants to join Troop 12. Well, literally all someone has to do from Troop 12, or I believe the troop that I'm in, we could sit there and for any in-council unit, we could transfer that scout. Now,
We just need what, the birth date, their PSA ID, and their name on it.
right,
And
right.
they get a full
Hmm?
contact.
Yeah,
Only for you.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's Slatersville that does that stuff. It was funny because Monday night in the Northeast, or on the eastern side, I should say, they're like, so you mean I could go in and I could take all the Troop 12 scouts away from them and not even talk to them? Yes, you can do that, right? So it's a great way to bolster the numbers in your unit. And I say that tongue in cheek, but the reality is you can go in and grab in-council scouts and assign them to your units. So be careful when you're doing that.
Which functions or roles have the ability to do transfers?
Key 3. And, oh, by the way, key 3. So when you're doing the roster stuff, the additions that can be made come up key 3. So your chartered org rep or your chartered unit representative, right, that we have. Your committee chair, obviously, and then your unit leader, i.e. your scoutmaster, crew advisor, cub master, that kind of stuff. Now, those people in these tools can go in and they can assign delegates, right? So I'm not really a good computer guy, but Linda's really, really good at it. So Linda, could you please help me out and I'll delegate, I'll make Linda a delegate and then she could come in and help me with those roles, whether it be because of just being with issues or because I don't know how to do it. So, and she'll tell you it's the latter. So, yes, sir.
If I accidentally pull in scouts from another troop, I'm not gonna be able to see data for us, addresses, or anything else like that, am I? About those scouts?
Once you transfer them in, you will.
You would have to know their member ID, so you would have to go out of your way to accidentally.
So, right.
You're gonna fill out 4 specific fields. There's no
Yeah,
accident
thanks
around.
for that. If you've gone that far, you've been pretty intentional on it about it. I mean, obviously, as commissioners, you know, or depending on what roles you may have with district and council, you can go up and pull up unit rosters and get that. But yeah, yeah, okay. So now I was telling you that if you were to come over here and you were looking at Scout Book, right? And Scout Book, it defaults to here's your different patrols, and then there's some tools underneath it. If you click on Troop Roster in here, right? And over there, you can see there was added patrol. But when this comes up, please do. What's going to happen is when the troop roster pops up, if I scroll down to the bottom, there'll be a place in there to add a new scout or an adult. So the adults are on the left, scouts are on the right. And if I scroll down, you can see where I could add a leader or where I could add a scout, or here you can see that's where the in-council transfer is. Yes, sir?
So why would you add a scout versus using a Be a Scout sign up for a scout?
So that's an excellent question. Sometimes
Because they would flow in naturally once they're accepted. by one-
exactly, and that's why I opened with
No, that's the transfer.
That's the transfer.
that's a transfer.
That's a transfer.
In-council transfer. That's what
I'm talking about add a scout.
So really, the add a scout. Oh, I have to go to bed. Sorry. No, the really the the add a scout button should be obsoleted, quite frankly, because there are so many tools out there that help you onboard a scout or an adult in a much better way, right? And by that I mean use via what Jeremy's suggesting is if you go in and use Be a Scout, okay, and you fill out the electronic application, right, or online application, and then for if you're an adult, submit the query form by sending it to council, right? Then you'll get pulled in, and usually inside 24 hours, but 24 to 48 hours, that person will appear on your thing, on your roster, right? That is the best way to do it, okay? If for some reason you really got to get them on your roster, let's say, I think that a good example, an appropriate example is I have someone that's coming who wants to not necessarily participate in activities, you know, like overnights or that kind of stuff, but they want to visit the patrol and kind of give it a feel. You can add them as a scout here while they're doing their visit, and they could get emails as an example and that kind of stuff. But if they want to start participating in activities, then they really need to fill out that application and become an official scout. You see what I mean? Like I would have scouts or youth visit our troop meetings all the time without saying, okay, I need an application from you. Once we were going to go do that outdoor activity though, I said, okay, now we need to, right? So I would suggest that I could add a scout there, give that prospective person an account, and then they could observe, they could use the calendar, they could see the communications, that kind of stuff. So it kind of partially onboards them.
So would that, if you do it at a scout,
Mhm.
it adds it to scout, but it doesn't add it to scout net.
Right,
So it's an isolated, so they're not
Right.
in scout net. So they're
Right.
not- so-
and that's why it was key. What I was saying earlier is when you actually do it the official way, when ScoutNet, right, pushes that new person to your unit, it's going to try and correlate the data. And if it can, it'll match them and you're good. If it can't, it creates a new person, right? And then you're going to have to delete one of the accounts.
That button's been there for 10 years.
Yes,
That's what I was, and it hasn't caught up.
right,
It's basically a legacy feature that I haven't
Right.
used in 8 years.
exactly. But that would be an example of why I would do that. Okay. Is there any other questions on that? And again, you can see why I'm bouncing back and forth, because there's features that are in here that are no longer in Scout Book Plus, and perhaps add a scout. There is a way to add a scout, right? And I remember if I was to come in here, I believe that there's a plus. I'm thinking of event. So maybe Scout Book Plus is phased out the add a scout button, but it's still available in Scout Book. So apologize for that confusion. But what I am confusing myself with is now if I was to go to the calendar in Scout Book Plus, there is a plus sign that you could use to create an event. Now, you can create an event 2 different ways. You could use the plus sign, and then you're going to have to add the dates and all of that stuff, okay, and go down through, and we'll see that. And there's your plus sign in the upper right-hand corner, okay? And then, or what you could do is you could go to a particular day, you could click on that date or double click on that date. Don't make me, it's very slow. Yeah, there's some redundant stuff in here.
Hey, Rob, while
Yes, sir.
you're
Yep.
Does this let you print out a PDF of it?
I have actually not tried that. So you have, and we can, if there's a question we can't answer tonight, we'll get those questions down and we'll send the answers to those out in an email. Okay. So here's a form for adding an event. You have to put in an event name, right? And then you have to choose an event type. So if we're going to be doing a camp out, right? Now you have your starts and your stops, right? You can do a description. Now, if you look down here, you see how this field, which says notes, agenda, and minutes, is in gray. There are fields on here that admins only will see. Now, admins, again, are your key 3 or your chartered unit rep, if you have one of those, or someone that you've delegated, okay? So this could be a way for the scoutmaster or program lead or whatever to add things that notes, whatever, to the team, if you will, and then those wouldn't be those won't be visible to the greater audience, okay? So that's why that's kind of grayed out. You can do an event recurrence where you could come in and you could select what kind of repeating or recurrent type it has. Like if I was to come in here, you have weekdays, weekly 1 day, da da da. Now there was a feature that wasn't in here yet that somebody was looking for, right? Bi-weekly isn't in here yet, and there are like the first Monday or the second Wednesday or the whatever. Now, what I could tell you is if there's features that are not in here that you would like, if you were to come up here And way up in the upper right-hand corner, if you were to click on your, or the person, if you will, you could click on send feedback. And when you click on that, a form will come up, and that's where you could send off suggestions or feedback on how things are or are not working relative to Scout Book Plus. Okay? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. I know in some tools what'll happen is it'll say you have the opportunity to sign up for an event until the event closes. I wonder if there's a feature like that that's. Yep.
Just click all day event. Should stay.
It should, yeah. I think what Bob's suggesting, and it's a good. Yeah, so obviously there's something there that could work better, and the beauty of Roundtable is we have the experience of everyone in the room. But to what Bob is saying is if that thing is disappearing because the calendar says that the event's going to stop on this time, the way to keep that thing alive is to change it to all day, right? Perhaps on the day, if it sounds like a pain in the, right? But perhaps on the day of the event, when you're going to do those things, change it from the 2-hour thing to an all day, and that'll keep that hopefully enabled for you to take attendance. Does that make sense, Bob? So a suggestion on how to make that work differently, let me say. Does that make sense? Settings. Unit positions, help, time zone, and unit set, no. Yeah.
So my understanding for what you're just discussing for the Scout Book calendar is you have no legacy calendar after the event is over. It's wiped from the calendar. You can look at it.
Ah. So.
You have no, like for me, I can go back, I can look at my Google calendar, I can go back 5 years and still look at information from back then. From what you're saying, it's wiped and nothing is there. You can't go back and look at it.
Well, I mean, you can hear, right? So that obviously. Yeah, it looks like it is there though. I could also tell you though, if you're looking to record miles and stuff, we'll get to a spot where, no, it's just about attendance, right? Okay. Well, so we'll take a look up on that, right, and send an email out. I suspect what Bob suggests would be a good workaround if in fact it's a problem. Okay. Yep.
The reason for that question is specifically something that we're talking about when it comes to recruitment. Make sure you have a copy of your calendar. Save yourself the effort of having to do it twice. If you already put it all in Scout Book, don't give yourself double work. Take what you put in Scout Book. To Jeremy's point, export it to a calendar and print that out. Great way to show families what you have.
Here's our meetings, here's our activities, here's our camping trips.
So it's getting close to 8, I understand. Calendar, right? We get what's going on there. There are when you look at these reports right now, these reports, there's activity logs, there's audits, there's BSA history, there's attendance reports, OA eligibility, that kind of stuff, right? Under this purchase history, this I found his, like, wow. If you come in here, you can download all of the previous advancement reports that were submitted via Scoutbook. And what you can do with these, if they're current, is you can actually print these out and use them as buy lists at your scout shop, right? But I want to go back to the roster and maybe even ask Linda for some help. But if you were to come in here and you were to do unit quick entry, you could do health records, swimming, scout leadership, OA, enter school information. There's also, I apologize, there's a place to do rank. No, there is. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You got to click on some names. So if you come in here and click on some names, now I will tell you it is not robust yet in Scoutbook Plus. When you come over here, this record progress is enabled. So when you come in here, you can record advancement, and it's just very crude. Completion date, the type of advancement, whether it be an award, a merit badge, or a rank, what the advancement item is at a high level, right? And then the status, approved or awarded. So when you approve a rank advancement or a merit badge, that scout has earned that. And then in a court of honor, you award them that. So it tracks either one. So you can record advancement in Scoutbook Plus, but for those who are familiar with Scoutbook, like when I left summer camp, every partial for that scout, whether it be rank or merit badge, I tried like heck to have done either before I left camp or that week, right? Because if they ever lost their blue card, yada, yada, yada. And the beauty of Scoutbook at the time, or it still is, frankly, you can go in there and you could record those partials, if you will, or those steps of advancement relative to merit badge or rank. Okay? Is there any questions on that part? Yes, sir. It should, yes, yeah. So like I say, they're turning features on, right? And that's why I had both of them up, because it's important to understand that if you're used to a function or you think there should be a function, just come right down here, click on the Scoutbook thing, it'll pop it up, right? And you can come in here and do it. Now, if I was to select like Darius Anvar, he's an older scout, right? When he pops up, there was that beautiful dashboard that was Scoutbook that showed all of his merit badges and stuff. Now, I could tell you, we had the same report pop up in Scoutbook Plus, and it was pretty neat. And for the Cub Scout side, right, your required activities and your electives, if you call it up by den, it'll show the progress relative to all of them with percentages and all of that, and then the requireds, and then the electives underneath. So that dashboard actually looks pretty usable. You agree with that? Mm-hmm. Yes, it will be. It will be night. Yes, twilighted.
One piece. You see up here it says date join Scouts BSA. If that is not filled in, you cannot run the LOA eligibility report on a scout. And when they crossed over, when they transferred in from being a Cub, that is not filled in.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
You have to manually fill that in.
Okay. So here's the dashboard I was telling you on the Scoutbook side relative to a Scout BSA troop, right? You can see here for this individual scout, those are the different ranks. He obviously hasn't had his Eagle Scout Court of Honor yet, right? And if you were to click under, if you were to go down to merit badges, you could see that pending approved, there's that, oh, those are awards. So there were 30 approved merit badges. If I click on view all, it'll actually pull those up. So there is a way to see it on that very granular level in Scoutbook Plus. It's just a different way to go. But yes, they are going to retire Scoutbook, right? But so Commissioner Tools, as much, right? They just said, okay, we're not supporting the old one anymore. And we actually don't have a new system in place yet. They just shut it off, right? If they were to do that to the units that are using Scout Book, it would obviously wipe them out, okay? So what they're doing is they're keeping Scout Book up until such time that they think that Scout Book Plus is mature enough or has the features, the basic features that we would need. And then, you know, you're not going to want to focus on keeping two platforms going from a resource perspective. Make sense? Any other questions? Yes, sir. It should be touching ScoutNet just like the other, just like Scout Book is. So yes. Yes. Right. It usually there's a 24-hour refresh that happens, right? A clock for. Oh. Mm-hmm. So I know. Mm-hmm. And I believe in Scout Book, I've always had to so as Scoutmaster, I said these are the things that the Scoutmaster will sign off, right? And so I say that in that when it came to the requirements relative to the leadership positions, then I was, yes, manually saying that they have met this, right? The platform that we typically use, if I was to be advertising for someone else, we use a service called Troop Web Host, okay? And that was pre-Scout Book. I think we started using that in like 2010 or 20, you know. The point is in there, you could assign leadership roles and it just tracks it and it keeps the entire history relative to leadership for every person, adult and Scout. So yes, there's those tools out there that exist, but I have not seen where Scout Book will track that for you. You've either approved it or you haven't, right? You can assign roles, but I haven't seen where you assign leadership positions, you know. Yes, sir?
I don't think they will put an automatic lock in there because it is not necessarily consecutive time. Correct. According to BSA. So that's 6 months or 4 months. They can do 2 months, take someone off, or take a football season off, come back and finish the season.
Yeah, that's true.
But how the rolling clock that automatically after 4 or 6 months and say, well, you fulfilled your obligation. That's not going to happen. It's up to the Scoutmaster to say that.
Right. Yep. And I actually had a patrol leader who he all of a sudden wanted to play a bunch of sports, you know, and we not punitive, right? I said, listen, you want to go off and you want to do this X amount of time? Well, to be a patrol leader above, the requirement I had was your participation is X. If you can't meet that, then what we'll do is we'll have somebody come in, they'll do that role until such a time that you want to come back and pick it back up. And the person doing the patrol leader job is ready to step back down again, right? And to Adrian's point, then the clock would restart, right, and become cumulative on that. So that's what we did in our troop. Yes, sir. When you drop them from your roster, when you renew now, or you know, not recharter, but when you re-up or renew, when you drop someone from your roster, that's when they'll disappear from the roles. Okay. We have scouts that look like they're over age, but we have a crew that's affiliated with us, and so those people will hold on the unit roster because of that. Okay, especially if they've just turned 18, they'll stay on the roster until such a time as you drop them from the unit. Yes. Yep. Well, now if you just go to when you do your renewal, right, you're going to opt people in or you're going to opt them out. And if you opt them out, they're off your rolls. No, typically you don't drop them middle of the year.
The issue right now, this still gonna be there. So youth that have quote unquote left you are still gonna be in MyDot Scouting, and they're still gonna be in Scout Book and Scout Book Plus. Until basically you can have them literally removed from Scout Book by going into their membership role and putting an end date, and that will instantly remove them. So often what happens is when things are sinking, you'll see youth pop in and pop out of your basically units because the Kayla.net and MyDot Scouting are talking back and forth on the stored procedures to update the record sets, and then kids pop in and pop out all the time. So the next couple of weeks after an AOL transfer, you gotta stay on top.
So, I have a question, I don't know if this is pertinent, but, so I have a scout that said they didn't want to renew, so they didn't renew. And then we talked to them, and it's a month later, or it's right now, they want to renew. Now, whether they're in that little bubble or twilight zone, do they have to restart, or can they just redo?
So if they're still in the system, I think you can just re-add them to your roster. But once they're dropped from, so then that's where I would be looking at MyDot Scouting, right? If they're gone from MyDot Scouting, they've got to resubmit a new application. If they're still in MyDot Scouting, call Kara up. Hi, Kara. Yep. Hi, Kara. So I did want to show everybody. I know. That's why I said hi, Kara. Yep. He will fit. So this person right here on the top line, Darius Anvar, 18 plus. He's 18 years old, right? His renewal status, that's it, renewal, right, is expired. Expiration date 12/31/24. He hasn't dropped off the rolls yet. He will drop off the rolls without us doing anything. Right? I wanted to show everybody one more thing quickly. If you look here, the messaging is not here. So if you're using Scout Book Plus and you want to send emails out, if you go back to Scout Book, right, you could see this function here, send message. And when you pop that up, you can choose, oh boy. Yeah. Welcome to my world. But you can choose the unit. If you have multiple units, it'll allow you to select any one of them. But then you can come down here and you can choose the individuals that you would like to send an email or a text to, and you can still do communications from Scout Book. But messaging is not in Scout Book Plus yet.
So as long as they have a mobile number in their profile and the carrier identified, we can send text.
Should be able to, yep. Yep. So I've gone over, but I wanted to touch those core things: roster, events, advancement, and communications, right? Any other questions? No? Yes, sir? Yep. No. Their records exist forever, right? By their BSA ID. So what helps a tremendous amount is if they have what their BSA ID was, when they fill out their application to rejoin scouting and they put that membership ID in there, they will be assigned to that old member number, right? And all of that history will be retrieved or revived for that person. Yep.
So like I work with my submaster, and I say either I can pull them in or you can push them into the troop. So all I do is I work with them and say, okay, I need their name, their BSA ID, and their birthday.
So that was the in-council transfer. The beauty of it is they don't have to fill out an app, right? You can come in and you can do an in-council transfer here, or in Scout Book Plus, you would come over and you would do a transfer member here, right? So, Mr. Cubmaster, you told me these are coming. Please give me their information. The Cubmaster would give me that stuff. I'd put that those transfers in, and within the week, they're automatically on my rolls. Yep, that's key because I think that that has changed, but there was a time that if the,
All the instructions on the different ways to do it, push or pull, are right there. It's pretty detailed.
right, and I say in council,
Think of your record set. You're one record to another, you're transferring records.
and I've been saying in council only, it looks like Scout Book Plus is enabling out of council transfers in, right? But the point though is that it's paperless, right? The Cub Master's giving me the information. I put them in here, they will show up. But, and the point that we were making, there was a time, and it still may exist, if the Cub Master did not award the Arrow of Light to that scout prior to them crossing over to scouting, they couldn't get it in.
That still exists. So if in the event that someone needs to get a board awarded after they're already a scout, that can be done in the back end. That's a call to the council office, but please don't do that. Please just award it before they.
Right. So I say that to those who are doing the transfers from Cub Scouts. I get my information to transfer those Weebles. I want to see the AOL appear in their membership prior to me hitting giddy up on that thing. Okay? Thank you, everybody. If you do have questions, please email us, right? And we'll get those questions out. More? You good? No more questions? All right. But no, thank you for that. Hopefully you found it helpful this way. I tried to forego the PowerPoint option and just walk through this live. I think that we learned a lot more. So, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa.
Just a few announcements. There's a red box. That's called our feedback box that we started back in the Northwest. So if you have any feedback whatsoever, you didn't like the coffee, you want Starbucks instead, please let us know. Any interesting topics that you might want us to cover, please put it in the red box. Don't forget, we're here. We are here at New England Tech, and as always on YouTube on the second Wednesday of the month. Don't forget, March 12th is our next date. Hope to see you all there. Thank you for coming.